Wake up, Jacob. High Value Hebrew. I'm your humble host, Robert E. Reed. And today I got the one and only, the author of the Polygamous Papers, Hondo Solomon. Now, what he's going to do in this interview, he's going to give us the intel. He's going to give you all the details that you need to know on how to move and travel throughout this world. Now, in this one, this is the Philippines edition. So, Brother Solomon, just for clarity's sake, where are you right now at the time of this recording?
I am in Cebu City, Philippines, on the island of Cebu.
On the island of Cebu City, Philippines. Okay, so how's the weather? Let's get that out the way. How's the weather right now?
Oh, this time of year, it's consistently 90 to 95 degrees.
Okay, so dress warm. So dress warm, huh?
Hey, man, I'm telling you, you walk outside, it's a good idea just to have a t-shirt on and like some light cargos or something like that. Jeans a little too hot out here.
Yeah,
Definitely wear a hoodie. Definitely don't do that.
absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into some of these questions that I'm really eager to get into,
Sure.
And I know the fellas, obviously, we know you guys want to know about, how the women are out there, how they treat you, stuff like that. We're going to get into that, but we want to get into the nuts and bolts and stuff like that. But before that, let's see, how long have you been out there so far? Because people want to know, okay, is he there just for 2 or 3 days, or he been there for a minute to get a real good feel for being out in the Philippines?
Oh no, I've been out here for a month, and I'm going to come back. Actually, I'm coming right back here to visit with my consorts here. But
Okay.
this is not the first time here either. I've been here a few times, and in order for you to really get a feel for the Philippines and to avoid the tourist trap,
Right.
that everybody loves the food, the people, and the culture. You want to get the real deal. You're going to have to come here for at least a month at a time when you
Right.
come. So that's something I remember we've discussed often, you and I. So yeah.
Absolutely. And just to give some of you guys a little bit of background as far as me and Brother Hondo, we go back, it has to be about 10 years now. Okay. It has been about 10 years. It could be 8 to 10 years. Yeah. And we've been talking about this, and one of the things I'll tell you guys this. I don't mind admitting to you guys that, Solomon played a big role in me visiting the Philippines, because he went out there years before I did, years before I did. And he was one of the big reasons why I went out there, because he gave me the 411. So what I wanted to do is interview the brother and have him give you the information that he gave me. So we're going to jump right into that. So one of the first things I want to ask you about, brother, okay, you got out there. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's get into planning, and then I'll get into the economy and the culture and stuff like that. You've done it a couple of times, so you know from experience. So just a couple of tidbits. How should someone plan a trip heading to the Philippines?
All right. So the first thing is we want to make sure we have a realistic view of your travel plans from every economic sphere. Remember, you and I discussed whenever you travel, you're looking at the various spheres or rings of power that you observe whenever you're at home or abroad. So, in my view, you should bring to the Philippines with you for every month you want to come here. You should bring at least $5,000 at the
Okay.
time of this recording. You will watch some videos that list the Philippines as one of the cheapest places in the world, which it is, but it is no longer in the top 5, in my opinion. You will barely get by here comfortably with $2,000. Now, what do I mean by comfortably? The condos here and the apartments here tend to be very small.
Okay.
They measure everything in square meters as far as the area is concerned, but you're looking at most of your condos are only going to be about 3 to 400 square feet if you're looking at things in imperial measurement.
Right.
So it's pretty small. In order to live comfortably, you want to have at least 500 square feet of space. You're going to pay more for that. You're going to pay about $800 a month for that, especially if you want modern appliances. You want it to be in a safe area When you walk outside, it's not the hood. You're going to pay some money for that. And if you're in the heart of the city or you're in like a business center, you're going to pay 1,200 if you want to be comfortably, if you
Right.
want to live comfortably. So, of course, you're going to see these vlogs with people. It's like you can live in the Philippines for $800 to $1,000 a month. Well, yeah, that's if you're barely getting by.
Right.
But according to the principles of high value Hebrew, according to the principles to my four pillars of international travel, you should always think and move in terms of abundance and not in terms of scarcity.
Right.
So that's why, I say at the very least, and this is if you're barely surviving, you should have $3,000 set aside just to do this.
Right.
But if you want to live comfortably, bring $5,000 with you, and you will go home with well within your budget. But remember, when you go to medical facilities, for example, sometimes they're going to see you're a foreigner. They will charge you at the hospitals more. That this does happen.
Okay.
People try
Got
to scam you everywhere.
okay.
You're going to get charged. So this is one reason why you should always have a consort with you because she's not going to let you get scammed. Like my consort is actually a few meters away from me. She's been guarding me the whole time. She's been deflecting scammers left and right the
Yeah.
entire time I've been here. So it's been a good thing. You need allies when you travel. You can't just go out here wearing a backpack everywhere you go. You look like a target.
Right.
You don't speak the language. You know nothing about the history of the people. People lie on these vlogs. They say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I know the food, the people, the culture," but you can't tell me the dietetic laws. You can't tell me why they eat a certain product. They say they love the people, but if you wouldn't marry any of the women here ever, then you don't love the people because that's the form of love is for you to intermarry into another culture aside from your own.
Right.
Uh, if you say you love the culture, that means that you know some of the history, you know the background, you know the manners and customs of different regions in that country. So this is one reason I'm glad we're having this interview so that people don't get caught up in the lies of travel. This is one reason why I do not support tourism. I do support travel. And
Yes.
in my theory, in my theory of four pillars of international travel, I always state this difference between the traveler and the tourist. So the passport bros movement that we're addressing today is generally men who are tourists and they are not travelers. But we'll get into that, I'm sure, later in the interview.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're hitting it. So, since you're already alluding to it, let's get a little bit into the culture because you were saying that people they say, "Oh, well, I love the culture," but they're not really kind of looking into it. And now, obviously, we only have we're only going to do this for about an hour, so just kind of even if it's just a couple of bullet points, just give the audience a couple of bullet points of the culture, like what to expect, what you've seen, the city versus the more rural places or the provinces and stuff like that. A couple of differences, just so they don't have culture shock.
Okay, so most men who come here, whether they are travelers or tourists,
Mm-hmm.
they will go to Manila or Cebu.
Right. True. That's true.
They don't know. There are at least several dozen large cities in the
Right.
Philippines
Exactly.
that you go live in.
Right.
There are expats living there and been thriving there for decades. I mean, there's people who live in small towns. I mean, me personally,
Right.
I believe I have a preference for the province.
Okay. Fair enough.
Those who are unfamiliar, the province is the countryside. In fact, my consort here, she and I actually went to visit her family, and we were there for a few days, and we were out in the jungle. I
Okay.
played basketball at the edge of a jungle. I mean, we walked almost an hour off the road to
Mm-hmm.
go into the jungle,
Right.
and I was out there playing basketball. Got footage and everything. So it's when you go into the province, it's like a whole different planet than the
Yeah.
people
Right.
experiencing it in life in the city. So you see these guys with these travel vlogs.
Right.
They'll go to the city, say, "Oh, I love the Philippines." It's like, do you
Did you
really?
see
Because
it? Did you
it's
see
not
the
the
villain?
culture. The
Right.
culture of the Philippines can't be found in the city. Like you literally won't see it. You hear American music. You generally you hear trap rap. You hear
Oh.
music that is not holistic. You hear a lot of electronica. These things are what you hear when you're in the city. Every venue you go to, whether you're at any branded coffee shop,
Right. Right.
any restaurant. I even went to a standalone restaurant, especially my favorite restaurant in Cebu City. I went there, and there was absolutely no Filipino music. when I got into taxis, when I got in Grab, which is their equivalent of
Like
you know,
Uber or Lyft.
it's actually better in my opinion. But
Okay.
um, when I got in these vehicles, the taxi drivers were, I think, only one in the last month was playing Filipino music. Everybody else was playing stuff that I hear on top 40, stuff that I
Okay.
hear on, just a regular station in New York City or something.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so the Philippines, even the last 5 years, it's since the pandemic specifically, it's really transformed into like this Western hybrid. There's something else we have to understand too. Is you asked for 2 bullet points.
Hmm.
The Philippines is not as, especially where most men will tread their feet upon. The Philippines is not as traditional as people say it is on these vlogs. I'm telling you, 99% of the travel vlogs, these men are lying to you. They're lying.
Hmm.
The whole Philippines is so traditional. It depends. The deeper you go off into the forest and the
Yeah.
jungle, more traditional.
Roberts. That's traditional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
when you get to the edge of the city, the women are not that traditional. In fact, us practicing, North African Judaism, the
Hmm.
way we do, and even to an extent, Islam, in my case, we're much stricter than Filipino culture. We're much stricter. And I mean, even the women here in my
Okay.
consulate,
I
you
see.
so strict. I said,
I
well,
see.
I thought y'all were traditional, you know. So it's kind of a running joke between my consorts and I, how strict I am. But
Right.
the Philippines is not as traditional as people want to claim it is.
Right.
The reference point for many of these men who travel there, they're coming from the West.
Right.
So the men who come from other parts of East and South Asia, they don't claim that the Filipino culture is that traditional because those other Asian societies are actually stricter than Filipino culture, and their marriage systems are more intact. So
Oh.
you have a
Okay.
lot of Indians who come here, you have Koreans who come here. Both those societies, those were empires at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they're very much warrior cultures. They're very much former empires,
Yeah.
and they are much more strict. So these are two things that we want to make sure we clear the fog about. Make sure we tell the truth. So when people say they love the culture of the Philippines, well, which culture are you talking about? You just went to Cebu City. You lived in Manila for
Right.
30 years, or
Right.
have you? I've actually lived in the province before.
Okay.
It's a whole different planet. That's the Philippines.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Fair.
just to give you an example, then because I gave you two examples. I'll give you a real live example. So
Okay.
when we went to the province, we're not together under any type of government, but my consort was referring to me. I was a few meters away. I was doing something else. And my
Hmm.
consort was speaking of me in third person, and
Hmm.
she said, "Yeah, my husband, blah blah blah." She was telling
Right.
him something about me. Now we haven't signed any documents, but if you look in any traditional society, your consort, whether you're a male, the woman's male consort, or she's your female consort, you're going to consider that a household.
Okay.
You don't have to go, men who want a wife here, you don't necessarily have to go chasing paperwork. But
Right.
as you well know, I actually have paperwork that I've presented to my consort, and I said, and she's one of my consorts. I said, this is it can go deeper in that every government has to acknowledge you as my wife if you sign these documents. But in everyday parlance, she introduced me as her husband. So this again, we were in the province. We were at
Right.
the mountain, like
Right.
literally in a mountain next to
Okay.
like a lake in a river, like where we can go spearfishing.
Right.
My brother-in-law actually went spearfishing for me. Then he knocked down a bunch of coconuts. This is
Oh.
how traditional it is. You
Right.
understand?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you come out of the city, because a lot of people they don't realize that the major cities, the two major ones that you named, the Cebu and Manila,
Mhm.
is they are looking at Western society. They're listening to the Western type movies. They look at some of the shows. They're looking at, so you have to come out of the city if you actually want to be in the culture. You got to come out.
Yes.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is most foreigners, especially Westerners, do not want to live in the province. They don't.
I know that. I know
They
that.
don't.
Yeah.
Now you remember when you got here, even a lot of Filipinos don't like the province. They say, "Oh, it's poor here," all this and that. But
Mm.
you know, in our culture, we measure wealth more than money. Was more than
Yes.
money. So when I
Exactly.
see that, a woman has her entire family intact, that they're very welcoming, they're warm toward a man who is striving to be his best.
Yep.
Um, when there are manners and customs that you see,
Yep.
the state of the homes or the lack of finances is something that with some work can be fixed. You can't really fix all the time matters and customs except through force. So when you find
Right.
proper manners and customs, that's what you want to kind of ride with that. So I've told my consort here, the one who's here with me, I said, wealth is built with more than money. It has to be, when you have your family members intact. Um, you
Absolutely.
know, especially as a traveler, you're not actually traveling, you know, by yourself when you're a highly cultured man. When you're part of
Right.
high culture, you're traveling. You bringing all your brothers with you in
Right.
spirit. So
Yes.
we're never so we're never alone. We're never truly alone. You see,
Right.
but that's
Ex-
something very important about the culture. We have to adjust when we're in someone else's country. If it does not brush against your morals and your ethics, then
Right.
you need to just adjust and you engage in local manners and customs. And that's a very important tip, or else you will become an enemy to the people here or any other country that you go to.
Absolutely. See, yeah, we're able to, like you said, if it doesn't violate our morals, like with Hebrew, we try to adhere to Torah everywhere we go,
Mhm.
and as long as it don't violate to that, we got to assimilate to that culture. And when you do that, they're very welcoming, very welcoming. If you try, you're trying to assimilate, very, very welcoming. So I think that's one thing that we as men, especially who are travelers, that's what we try to do. We
Mhm.
try to assimilate and embrace that culture, and then in return, they embrace us. Let's jump. Hey, let's jump. We talk about the culture. Let's get a little bit into the economy, and then we'll jump into like the food. But let's go just a little bit of economy. Like, what have you seen so far, the economy and stuff like that? Because some guys actually want to know how's the economy. They may be looking at business opportunities, things like that. What's it like as far as the economy?
So I'll address it from a cultural perspective here.
Okay.
So you can you cannot open a business here unless you're going to be a 40% owner maximum.
Okay. Okay.
You have to have 60% of the ownership has to go to one or more Filipinos. As
Gotcha.
you can open a business if you marry a Filipino under their government.
Okay.
Those men who are interested in that, I don't recommend it
Mm-hmm.
because I and Master Wild Wolf, if any of you have heard me mention him before,
Mm-hmm.
we create contracts for men. We create marriage contracts for men so that the local courts in your country have to acknowledge you as married without you going under their jurisdiction.
Okay.
Other countries have to acknowledge you as married if you so choose. But if you choose to marry under the Filipino government under what's called the Filipino Family Code, which is very short, brief, um, it is going to trap you because divorce is something that's so rare here because it's difficult. It's very expensive.
Very
It's
expensive. Very
convoluted.
different. Yep.
Yeah, very convoluted. It takes a long time. Even if you're a foreigner, you got some money, you making 300K a year,
Yeah.
you a multimillionaire. It's going to take a while.
Yep.
Everything here is very slow. Travel is slow and rugged. So
Yeah.
when you come here, I suggest that men engage. You have to have a workout program before you come here. This
Okay.
is something nobody talks about in these travel laws. They just come up here. You see these guys, they out of shape, they don't work out, they
Mm-hmm.
slop. Well, these Filipinos will accept me. Well, I got some news for you. Filipinos like good looking dudes too. Okay.
Hey, talk
Don't be
about
coming out here and you 380 pounds, you 5'6". Don't do that.
it. I
Okay?
like. I like
Go to
that.
the gym, eat your vegetables, fast, engage in meditation. These things will help you when you're here. I can't stress that enough. So coming out here and marrying under the government, for example, you can easily get trapped because, especially if you're a polygamist, because unless you are a Muslim and you marry under Sharia law,
Right.
the government will not recognize you as having, say, two or more wives, or else you can go to jail or be excommunicated or
Yep.
exiled as a foreigner if you have
Mm-hmm.
a interest.
Right.
Okay, this is something that my consort Emily and I we've discussed. Um, because we went over a lot of the detail,
Yeah, of course.
whether or not we would take that route. But it is a strategy for those men who are Muslim because there's a heavy Muslim population in southern Mindanao, and
Okay.
in fact, let me is that Emily? Is that Western Mindanao where there's more Muslims?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like Western Mindanao and Southern Mindanao. And she speaks Arabic, by the way. My consulate speaks 14 languages. I just want to brag a little bit. Yeah, she speaks 14 languages, but she speaks Arabic, like elementary Arabic that
Okay.
she learned some years ago. But like that's very important too. You want to learn the language. You want to learn the languages when you come here, like before you come here, and when you have a consulate, practice with her every day. You
Yeah.
know, so hopefully that answers your question. There's so much in within
It's
that question.
yeah, it's a lot, and I know you're trying to unpack it, and believe it or not, man, I got what 2 questions in, well, about 3 questions in, and we're already 20 minutes, so it's just a lot to it's a lot to unpack, but it's
Yeah,
okay. You kind of alluded to because you're talking about don't be 5'5" and 300 something pounds. So let's go into the food. You got to talk about the food.
yeah.
I know that a lot of times, you go fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, but let's consider some other folks who probably ain't gonna do that. They probably do that, but they're gonna want some meat and stuff like that. So let's talk about the food. Let's talk about the cuisine a little bit, and then we'll get into the other stuff.
Okay, and while doing this, I'm actually going to further answer the other question and blend it in because
Okay.
it's actually so the business environment here, as far as the food is concerned, is become like food is more industrialized now here. This will last since the pandemic. It's very industrialized here, but Filipino cuisine is not healthy. Okay, you have to really stick to the fruits and vegetables. That's why I stress that when you're
Mm,
here, there are dozens and dozens of types of fruits and vegetables you can eat here,
right.
and you can make cuisine out of that. All Filipino cuisine has vegetables and herbs and things like that, but it's mostly meat, starch, oil.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yes, you have a lot of folks. By the time they're in their late 40s, a lot of heart disease. Um, you see people losing their memory, which this is what oil when it's rancid. In other words, when it's
Right.
heated, it's exposed to air,
Right.
light. You have water mixed in with it, things like that. It changes the chemistry of the natural oil in the plant.
Right. Right.
And that causes brain damage. So you see some forms of dementia here. You see people's muscle tissue breaking down after they reach a certain age, and that's in the men and the women. And it's because of the diet. Processed starch does that to you. The meat does that to you, and including the oil. And that oil actually goes in. It's very difficult for the liver and the kidneys to process. So that's something we have to keep in mind. What I recommend if you're going to live in the city, make sure that you're going to go to a restaurant. You want to attend a restaurant that is clean because a lot of the restaurants here have roaches. And I mean, one of the brothers who also has multiple consorts here, he's verified that a lot of these restaurants have roaches. He has seen them with his own eyes. He said every restaurant he went to had roaches. He used to own a restaurant himself. He's an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Uh, but there's one restaurant that I recommend. It's called Happy Hippos. It's in Cebu City. Um, it's in a small plaza here. It's near what's called IT Park, which is a small business center
Hmm.
here in Cebu City. So what I recommend is actually learn to create your own cuisines because most of these places, if you're going to get in a condo, an apartment, even a house, they're going to have between 1 and 4 eyes. The more modern places are going to have 4 eyes on the stove, but most places are only going to have 1 or 2 eyes, burners on
Okay.
the stove.
Okay. Gotcha.
And if it's a really modern spot, it'll have an oven. But most of these places don't have an oven. So that's
Okay.
something you have to keep in mind. But Filipino cuisine, it can be modified so it is healthy, but you
Okay.
have to take out a lot of the oil and lessen the amount of meat because there's a lot of meat in the dishes here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
however, the herbs for those of you who are really into spicy food, you have a lot of herbs here that are used for not only healing but just you put in the food, and
Hmm.
that's a good thing. But there's a lot of white rice here. It's gonna make you fat if you're not careful. I've actually lost about 15 pounds in the last 4 weeks since I've been here. So, but that's
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. You can definitely pack it on if you're not careful, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of, and I guess people would need to understand that there's a lot of varieties. Like, for instance, if you don't have yourself a consort, cooking for you, the restaurants out there, it's a large variety, of restaurants. It's everything out there. Okay,
Yes.
so people, if they want Italian and pizza, it's there. If they want seafood, obviously it's there. It's an island state, So if they want that, they can, and then they can have all the Asian. They can have Korean, they can have Thai, they can have whatever. It's all there.
Well, it's funny you said that because there are so many other Asians that are here now. Like even
Yes.
again, in the last 4 years since the pandemic
Yep.
started, when it ended, you have a lot of Koreans in Cebu City now. There's also a fairly new university called University of Cebu.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Koreans attending there. A lot of Koreans attending University of the Philippines. If you're a man who wants to obtain an education, you can attend the University of the Philippines here, and they have branches. I believe they have nearly a dozen branches around the country, but the
Yep.
main branch is in Manila. So in Manila Metro, I believe it's just outside the city. But
Yeah.
that's the largest, and that's the main and the largest branch. Also, there's a lot of salt in the food. So when you go into these restaurants, you have to ask for no salt, and they readily customize the food for it. They usually make it from scratch.
Yeah.
You don't have to request no salt. I highly recommend that because once you mix it in, they usually use white or brown rice. The better restaurants are going to use brown rice, black rice, red rice.
Right.
You request these things. Some of the better restaurants have a tricolored quinoa. You're
Right.
going to request those things. You can request no oil, and they will cook it without oil. They will use a pressure cooker. So these are all things that you can do to maintain your health. Like I said, I rarely eat starch here.
Right.
I think my consort actually just hooked me up with some. I see something burning up on the stove. They're not burning literally, but she just hooked up some that's full of peppers and spices over there. So
Okay. Love it.
uh, yeah, you always want your consort to make dinner for you if possible, or you can cook yourself. I actually tried cooking last week. It didn't turn out well because I only have two burners here.
Got it.
But yeah, that's it for the food though. But I highly recommend. Oh, always drink fresh buko. I'm sure most people thought this was fresh water, but this is actually coconut water, straight from the coconut.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of
And
fresh. A lot of fresh fruit there, a lot of fresh juice there. Love it, love it. This is one of the things I actually like about it.
yeah, and this will actually flush the salt out of your system too, but it has a lot of fat in it. It's very healthy. So
There you go. Love it, love it. All right, so with that, let's jump into, because we're halfway through now. We're like 30 minutes in, so now we have got to get into what the guys actually are tuning in to watch, and they were talking about the Filipinas. So you got to tell us about the Filipinas, right? Are they checking for foreigners in general, and are they checking for brothers in particular? Tell them about that. That's what they want to know.
short answer is yes and yes.
Okay.
Foreigners are kind of like it's like a smorgasbord now for the women because they like, oh, they can explore. These dudes coming in here.
They coming, yeah, they coming.
And Filipinos were straight like murking American black women during that whole debacle with the passport
Yeah,
where the princess was bucking.
yeah,
That
that
was a
whole
mistake on
passport.
their
Yep,
part. That was a
yep.
mistake on their part because what the Filipinos did, they got on code. Were like, no, we speak multiple languages.
Like,
We
brother, they
like y'all men are coming over here to be with us. They not they spending thousands of dollars to come over here like multiple times in a year. Like what's wrong with you?
yeah,
They will stay home
yeah,
with you. So they know, and even Koreans know, the Chinese know, the Indians know. You come over here, you always want to get a girlfriend or wife. Period. Point blank. Period.
every time. And brother, the funny thing was, I mean, you watch some of the videos just like I watched some of the videos, particularly High Very Hebrew. When there was a whole passport bro hate movement from the westernized women and everything, they'd be like, oh, they're just dusty, oh, they're just broke and stuff like that. You're right. The Filipinas, they jumped on that real quick, because when the Western women was saying that, first thing I was thinking, I was like, you do realize they understand you, right? They know what you're saying, they know English, they hear you, and then they talk about, oh, they're not educated. I'm like, they're more educated. What are you talking about? There are more nurses coming out of the Philippines than anywhere on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Other cultures come here to train in their nursing schools. There's a lot of African women here in
Yeah.
Cebu and in Manila, especially in Manila, but even here in Cebu. I
Yes.
see African sisters from time to time. As a matter of fact, when we're talking about education, Emily and I were just talking last night about what real education is. So, for example, I told y'all, that she speaks 14 languages. I'm sorry, she speaks 11 languages. She can understand an additional 3 languages.
Three more, yeah.
A total of 14. She has over 100 plants cataloged in her head. She's been every time we go in the province, here's what that plant does. This is what it's called in English, Tagalog, Basai, and Wadai.
Mm-hmm.
She's identifying the plants in multiple languages. Then she tells me what part of the body it heals. Does it help the organs? Can you make a poultice from it? Can you make a powder? Can you make a
Right.
salve? Can you eat it directly? Can you boil it? She's doing this with every plant.
Yeah.
In fact, hold on, Emily, hand me that catalog. I'm gonna show y'all something. See, I like to give receipts. I don't
Yeah.
want to. Here's what you good, baby. So look, y'all check this out. Now, my consort has been picking plants. This ain't it. She got some more coming. She's been
Right.
picking plants and then cataloging what these plants do. Okay,
Oh,
I put in a project because this is going to become a book. I actually have a
right.
book on fasting and herbalism
Right.
that's going to be coming out sometime next year. So I had her catalog these plants
Right.
and tell me what the names are in English, Bisaya, Wadai, and Tagalog. And she pasted. I don't know what she used to paste these plants. She
Okay.
went outside in the province. She put them down, and she tell me exactly what it does, and she also knows exactly how to. Here you go, baby. She also knows how to. Thank you. She also knows how to apply these plants to the human body. You
Ab-
see, but she doesn't have 5 degrees. You see, but
Right.
wait a minute. That's education. You see,
Exactly. Exactly.
and she knows how to take care of my body and my mind. So like these are things that I believe the North American women have gotten it wrong because everybody's coming around the world to come to East and South Asia to get a
E-
woman, especially to the
Exactly.
Philippines. So it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market because we can come here and just get a wife and get a girlfriend. It's not a problem. Just
Brother,
just
eight,
act right when you get here. That's all.
that's
You
all you
put,
have to do. And it's funny because a couple of things. One, the other Asian nations go to the Philippines to learn English, to get taught English.
yes,
And
yes.
the number one wife on the planet is an Asian woman. She is number one. She is the number one most married woman on planet Earth, an Asian woman. So
Mhm.
that's so when they say the
Not
things that
Latinas, not
uh,
Latinas, not American black women who only comprise 0.0052% of the world's female population, which is a real
right,
stat that I came up with. I
right,
crunched the numbers. It's not white American women, as much as they think they're the best.
yep,
They're not the most sought after.
it's not
No, no,
most,
something warm, yellow, and brown. That's ready
yeah,
coming over here to get some loving. Okay,
yeah,
everybody coming over here,
yes,
and we have to recognize that also, regarding the women, they like it when a foreigner is knowledgeable. This goes back to the high culture we mentioned earlier. So we're
yeah,
connecting the dots now.
yeah,
They like it when you come over here and you're knowledgeable. And then when you meet their families like, well, wait a minute. Oh, you know Messiah. Wait
yeah,
a minute. How do you know about our town like that? This town is small. How do you know? See, when you go places, you're a man who is studied, and you're a man who's careful and you're wise, and that's what you seek after. These elders here, especially, they see that. Matter of fact, um, my lady here said that. I'm gonna have her speak off camera, Emily. I just want you to speak toward the camera. What did you say? You can stay there to say it. Like what did your mother and your aunt say when they asked was I black American? What did they tell you about black American men?
She's a good person.
Did you catch that, brother?
no, what she say?
She said black American men are good people. Now
Oh, see,
this is in a small town, way out in the mountains
way
somewhere.
out in the province somewhere.
And
Yep.
her mom and her aunt said, "Oh, he's black American. Yeah, they're good people. They're good people."
You see that? You see that? And I want the brothers to pay attention. Okay, in the West, they gotta understand this. It's very important. In the West, what do we hear in the West? They're deadbeats. They're no good. They don't take care of their families. They say
Mhm.
all this stuff. This is the stuff that the black men in the West. That's what we have to hear, and that's what we have to deal with. So why
Correct.
not go to a place or go somewhere where the women didn't grow up with that? didn't grow up with this idea that black men, black men ain't sugar, honey, iced tea. So we don't have time, so we don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with that. Now I understand if the Western women, if they have trauma and all that, hey, go get therapy. But we don't have to deal with that. You see what I'm saying?
No, because we're not their psychologists.
Yeah,
We are, we're here for leadership, guidance, and counsel, but that's counsel,
that's
not Western
not
counsel.
therapy, not
Okay.
therapy. Absolutely. So
Correct.
okay, so
We're counselors, but not therapists. And in fact, I'm going to give you another example.
Mhm.
So we were in the jungle. We went to visit her brother, and he climbed a 50-foot tree, or
Mhm.
that's about 17 meters. He
Mhm.
climbed this tree barefoot, barehanded, with a machete, chopped down about 6 coconuts for me. And I
Mhm.
sat down and drank coconuts. I then watched them make a what was that they were making, Emily? What were they making over there in the corner where they had like the small coconut shell? Was that maroon?
It's a bubble. We call bubble coconut shell.
Mhm.
Oh, they were making coconut oil.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had about 100 coconut shells a few meters away making coconut oil. I actually got a chance to watch part of this process. And
Okay.
when we played basketball, there was an older gentleman. He was about probably his mid 50s. He no, not the elder. I'm talking about the guy who played basketball with, who I almost played basketball with. He was about in his mid 50s or so, maybe 60. He asked where I was from. He said, "You from the United States?" I said, "Yeah." And I was looking at him. I said, "He knows something about foreigners." And I said, "Has anybody ever been up here? Any foreigners?" He said,
Right.
"No." He said, "He's been living up there for decades." He said, no foreigners have ever been up here where you're at." And he said, "You must be Black American." I said, "Yeah." He asked my name. I said, "Hondo." He said, "Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you." See, brothers who don't leave their neighborhoods and they in their mama's house all the time, and
Mhm.
the queens and all that, they don't get out the house, so they don't know that black men, to go into the history of the whole passport bro thing, black men have been traveling since ancient African time. We've been traveling. We've
Correct.
been traveling to other parts of the world and populating the earth. About 40% of maybe even 50% of the world is mixed in with African people. So I don't know why brothers think everybody hates us. That's not true. It's simply untrue. When you get here, if you're not a knucklehead, then guess what? You bring you some resources. Make sure you have the time to stay here at least 30 days. Make
Mhm.
sure you got at least 5K. Make sure you utilize the 4 pillars of international 4 pillars. My 4 pillars of international travel, which I created, the 3BW formula. That's you want to open a bank account, want to buy property, want to open a business, and you want to get a woman. That's 3BW formula. You always focus on those things. Don't come here for prostitutes. Don't smash and dash. Don't
Come
sleep
on.
with them, disappear.
Talk
Don't do
about
that.
talk about it.
Don't do that. Don't do
Right.
that.
Don't
Because
do that.
what happens is this is a tribal country and culture. So people will remember you.
Yeah,
Philippines
absolutely.
have a very long memory. So
Absolutely.
they see you on the street and they got their brothers with them. You may not make it out of there. I've heard too many stories about dudes getting stabbed and thrown in the jungle somewhere. Nobody ever hear from them again. And you start doing some research. These cats were out here being knuckleheads. They want to disrespect people when they get here. You can't
Right.
do that. If you don't like the woman, don't deal with her like that. Just go on.
Right.
If you want a date, just don't do nothing with her. Nothing
Right.
sexual. Leave.
Exactly.
They take that
Exactly.
seriously here. I ain't saying it's perfect, but they do take it seriously here.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, brother, you
Absolutely.
got me about to snap on that subject. You about to
Okay. No, I got you. Okay, so no, that's good. We wanted to talk about talk about that, talk about the culture, talk about the food, talk about the economy, talk about all of that. Now, as far as I want one more thing on the ladies, and then we're gonna jump. I will jump to another part real quick. The differences in the ladies there versus the ladies in the West. Because again, I'm trying to keep the audience in mind. I'm trying to keep the guys. We have to say, I've been there and you've been there, but we got to keep in mind the guy who's never been there. So what is gonna be the difference? He's been dealing with women in the West. So when he goes there and he deals with a woman from the East, what can he expect? What are they like? Because one of the things they have to remember with the Philippines in particular, it's an Asian nation. It's in Southeast Asia, but it's kind of like they are a mix of Asian and Latin because of 200 years of Spanish rule colonization. So they're a mix of Asian and Latin women mixed together. Okay, but go ahead. But you've been there, and you've been around them. You got a number of consorts and stuff like that. So if you can just kind of get, and we'll move on after this. But what the difference between Panay and a woman from the West? Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about the Panays who are trying to be like women in the West. We're not talking about them.
Right. You just talking about like the average everyday Filipino.
There you go. That's what we're talking about.
All right. So because of the Hispanic, because Latin is Rome, but like because of Hispanic culture that is so thoroughly mixed here, even when they're not ethnically mixed, they're still impacted by the subjugation from the Spanish, French, and the Americans.
Yep.
That's just Western powers, right?
Right.
That jealousy is there. That Spanish whole, the woman is jealous. You're gonna have to battle against that. You have to be an extremely dominant male figure in order for you to be successful with Filipinos.
Yes.
Whether you have one or whether you have several.
Right.
You don't go for none of the shenanigans. You just This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing Wednesday. This is what I'm doing Friday. This is what I'm doing Saturday. And you stick to that because that's when they'll respect you. If you have, say, you want 2 girlfriends, you're gonna have to stay on your square, and that's just what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one difference about them. A lot of times they're extremely jealous, even when you don't have another woman. You might even be looking at another woman. They're very jealous, but also they will take care of you like no other. Okay, like when you wake from the time you even think about opening your eyes at 4 a.m., they all over you. Like they literally won't let you go.
Right.
I've been working on something for school, here, and my counselors all over me. Like I'm like, okay, you gotta like peel them off you.
Yeah.
You know how it is, brother. You have a consort in the Philippines.
I love it.
And you literally gotta like flex and move them. But they will take care of your body.
Yes.
They will always take care of. They do not tell you no sexually. They will always make sure you massage, you bathe, and make sure you're eating. Even when you don't want to eat, they're going to get a spoon and feed you.
Yes.
So you ain't hungry tomorrow,
Hey, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. This is what they want to know.
Now, the reason they do this is because Filipinos know that other Filipinos are hot. They know that. So you talk 8 out of the 10 Filipinos that you see from 18 to 35 years old are absolutely hot. Yeah. Just period. Like you ain't going to tell them no.
Yeah.
Okay. And they know that. So when there's more competition, a woman has more incentive to make sure that she treats you well because most people here are in a monogamous relationship. If they are in one, they're in a monogamous marriage. So she want to make sure she holds your attention. Most Filipinos have long hair. My consort here has hair that's almost down to her mid thigh. Like they just, and a lot of them want to be chic and modern now and kind of Renaissance. But men come here for women with long, pretty hair. That's what they're doing.
Yep.
And the Filipinos who know that, they understand that. They're not gonna color their hair. They're not gonna call rebonding their hair. They're not gonna chemicalize it. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna adulterate what is natural.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a nice tan skin, go outside, and also they're very active.
Yeah.
Everything I'm mentioning about them now, like you can literally tell your Filipino if she doesn't have work that weekend, she's literally you can literally say, we're gonna go 500 kilometers away to this other place on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tell you no. They just want to spend time with their man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now a drawback to the family orientation is that from what I've observed, sometimes it can be extreme. So you can get to the point where with many Filipinos where their priority is still, even though you're their husband or their boyfriend, their priority is still with the relatives. So their relatives come calling, they're gonna go running. It's like, wait a minute. And you got to set that straight in the beginning. I'm telling all the men now.
Right.
Make sure you set the rules down. Any rules you have, you set that up in the beginning.
Early.
First day. But hey, look, if when you're with me, you're with me. Like that, the priority is me.
Right.
Because sometimes you're going to end up haranguing with your consort over that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, they stay in good shape. the vast majority of Filipino, you will rarely ever find a fat Filipina.
Yeah, it's rare. It happens, but it's rare.
Yeah, it's rare. It was even more rare before the pandemic. So during the pandemic, a lot of these women started sitting at home just eating rice. They still eat
Right.
rice, 3 times a day. They
Right.
getting fat and they never went back to the gym to lose it.
Right. Right. Rice is life.
So yeah, because they have a saying here called rice. They say rice is life.
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful of that because a lot of the thicker Filipinos who look good, like I'm actually getting to know one now. She's
Mhm.
built like sisters used to be built like 20 years ago. She's thick.
Yeah.
And I straight up told her, I said, you're gonna have to lose 10 kilos. Now
Right.
10 kilos, 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds for those who are unaware.
Right.
I told her, yeah, you gotta drop 22 pounds. That was
Wow.
her. She laughed, she said, but yeah, she said I can do that. But she's gorgeous. And see, I know, and she's got a shape. Like she doesn't have any cellulite. She's just too
Right.
thick.
Right.
And that's another thing about Filipinos. They actually care. They actually want to look good for you.
I like
And if
that.
you have a critique, and also remember, guys, work out every day. You want to lose weight. Like my counsel said, "Dang, baby, you lost a lot of weight since you've been here." Yeah, because I want to look tight. I don't want to be out here
Yep.
looking crazy.
Yep. Yep.
Never move mediocre when you're traveling internationally. You always want to have a workout program. You want to do some yoga. I suggest for all the men, hatha yoga, not hot yoga, but hatha yoga, Hatha. That's
Okay.
the oldest classical form of Hindu yoga.
Okay.
You want to get off into that so you can stay tight out here because when you travel in the Philippines, uh, let's say the journey to the province, okay, where my
Hmm.
in-laws are at, for example,
Hmm.
if I was to take a plane and they had an airport nearby, that would take me 30 minutes to get to their house. But
Man.
it actually takes 6 to 8 hours because we're traveling on boats, small buses, vans, and then we got to take like a scooter. Like there's all types of. You then got to walk to the neighborhood. You're doing all of this, and it's
Okay.
hard. It's hard on your spinal column. It's hard on your mind. You're crossing the sea. You literally have to take a ferry boat.
Right.
Sometimes you're crossing choppy seas. Sometimes there's a typhoon coming.
Right.
You have to observe your surroundings here. You can't get away with slipping here. This
Right.
ain't this ain't the United States.
Right.
So
All right. Well, let me get. We got our last 13 minutes. Okay, we're gonna close it out. So in this
good.
last 13 minutes, I'm gonna walk real quick. I want you, and this part actually, I know this is something you wanted to get out. So this is our chance to go ahead and get it out. Talk a little bit about the networking, the networking and having a consort as a resource, as boots on the ground. We kind of talked about that type of thing. You and I, we talked about that kind of thing.
Sure.
But this is the part where people, or the guys, are missing out. Okay, they're looking for a woman and they think, oh, okay, cool, there's somebody I can be with, relationship. But they're kind of missing out on the big picture, the power of having a woman that's boots on the ground, that's a tremendous resource, that wears a lot of hats, that can really help you in your mission if you're doing this on purpose. So can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that, getting at the networking and having a consort that's boots on the ground instead of just like what you know what some of the other guys are doing, but show them where they're falling short, by not having that consort, which can be a tremendous resource. So I'm gonna let you talk about that for a second. I'm gonna grab something, but yeah, please just go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah. I'm actually going to give an example of real
Okay.
time example. So this just happened several days ago. So first of all, most men, as you said, they come here, they see sex on a date, sex on a date with another woman,
That's it.
sex on a date, or even a date and then sex.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all they see. They so you degrade the woman by not allowing her to bloom in her full power under your guidance.
Talk
Okay.
about it.
So you just smashing basically. I mean that's fine.
Yep.
But any animal has sex. That's fine. Okay,
Exactly.
but there's nothing special about a man traveling. There's nothing special about a man traveling unless he is actually building something when he arrives in that territory. So some of the things that the men are talking about here, just about going places and look, oh, I'm here. They're recording kind of themselves walking down the road, and they're they might have a girl with them or something like that. Like that's all fine and good,
Right.
but what else are they? What else are they accomplishing? So remember my 4 pillars of international travel.
Talk about it.
You need to open a bank account, you need to open a business, you need to buy property if it's possible in that country, and you need to have a woman. Okay, so this of course segues into a man being polygamous, because if you in Malaysia and you have another woman in Japan, then you know you need to know how to navigate this thing.
Right.
So to give a real live example here, um, I was coming back here to Cebu City, and we had just spent a few days in the province visiting friends. This is on a whole separate island, eight
Right.
hours, 8 hours of travel, right?
Right.
And I left my consort there on purpose. I said I want, because she was working on this island. I said I want you to go stay with your family, spend some more time with them because you ain't gonna see them for another few months. Spend some
Okay.
time with your family. I'm gonna go back to Cebu City. I'm gonna leave you here, and I'm gonna send for you because my other consort was coming. I
Okay.
was doing that just in case. Plus, you know, I was talking to another woman. I was getting to know another woman. So I wanted to have my place to myself until my other consort came in. So my other consort left. I flew my other consort in. Okay. My other consort created a PDF file for me that was about, I think, probably 10 pages, 8 to 10 pages
Right.
of all the vegan restaurants, the Indian restaurants. She gave me photos. She gave me like the phone numbers, the address of these places, what they offered. She actually customized a file for me.
Right.
She's a project. She actually works in project management. My other consort, so she was able to create that for me because she works in project management. So I gave her something to do that she's good at, and that saves me a lot of time. I know where all the gymnasia are at with calisthenics equipment. I know where I can go to buy books that I want. She created this big old file, and nice and clean too, just like she was a secretary.
Right.
Um, Pardon me, my other consort went to the island. I left her there. My other consort, when I flew her back home, my other consort here, Emily, she came in a few hours later. So I had the rotation going. And while she was in the province, I had her take a look at some properties for me so that I could rent a place because as a foreigner, you can only own a condo unit. You cannot own freehold, meaning freehold. You cannot own a lot. You cannot own a house. You can only own a condo, not an apartment, just a condo.
Right. Correct.
So I said, however, I know that I can get a nice, a decent place in the province for cheap for rent. So
Right.
she asked her uncle. Her uncle owns a bunch of land.
Okay.
He saw a bunch of rental properties on the same street as most of her in-laws live in. Although
Hmm.
most of my in-laws live in, her relatives.
Okay.
So I was able to tap into that resource and get that done. See, so she came back with all this information and the plant project, the herbalism project that I mentioned before. She
Right.
actually came back with all of those papers because she worked on that for like about 4 days. You
Yeah.
see, so yeah,
Fantastic. Well, that was one of the things I wanted to get in, and for and other practical, because you can go deep into it. Okay, this I want everybody to understand that Hondo can go deep into each thing that we're talking about. So I'm just letting you guys know these are just little nuggets. Okay, he's trying his best to kind of bring it, water it all the way down because he can talk about each pillar for a long time. Me and him, I had the pleasure. We talk behind the scenes and stuff like that. And we really talk about different things in building. So he can go, and he's just trying to give you guys just a little bit to go by, to a little bit to go on or whatever, and which I appreciate. So he's really trying to get some of that. And one of the other things that he talked about is that when you have, for example, if you're about to travel somewhere, obviously you meet someone, you can go on a dating app, stuff like that. That's cool. But you gotta, you want to understand that this female, this woman is a resource into that country. Okay. She's a resource. She knows where everything is. She knows how the culture is. She knows the do's and don'ts, what you can do, what you can't do. She knows all these things, and guys are not tapping into these resources. And then again, then you have access. I mean, obviously, treat her right, treat her with honor, treat her with respect, because we don't want to give our
you
home
want to keep her. You want to get into that relationship
exactly.
with the mindset to keep her. You're not like discarding the woman.
Exactly.
We don't talk.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the difference. We don't roll. Yeah, we don't roll that way. That's the difference with. And we're not disparaging. Passport bros. Hey, I understand the movement. I get it. I know why it is what it is. But that's why I come with high value Hebrew, because there's a difference. We're coming in not to just grab a woman, use her, and discard her. It's not like that. We're trying to actually find the keepers because they are a resource. They can be a resource. They can help you in your endeavors.
Well, what you're saying is actually how ancient men practiced
Yes.
marriage and polygamy, because when they travel from their home country,
Yeah.
whether we're going to war, whether they're going to trade because they've heard things going on in other countries, they're merchants. Like
Right.
for instance, Hebrews traditionally are merchants, and secondarily everything else, warriors,
Exactly.
artisans, and stuff. We're merchants first. We make
Yes.
something and we ship it, or we go get it. We're the middleman. That's
Right.
traditionally what Judaic culture has been about, and the
Mm-hmm.
art. And then, of
Yes.
course, we create something, we sell it. So we traditionally we've been primarily merchants. And I know some people think that Jews are only like these white dudes with the keepers on their head, like
Yeah.
Lubavitch. No, 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 no. The Yemenites, Mizrahi. You're talking about the Beta Israel, Bene Israel,
Right.
also from India. Beta Israel is from Northeast Africa, Eritrea, Ethiopia. These are places that have old Judaic culture that they were
Right.
traveling. I even had a Filipina. She was 20 years old. She even told me herself she lived in the province in a place called the Fish Pond down in
Right.
Mindanao. She even told me many years ago. She said the Moors came here, and when they went to war with Malaysia, and then they went to war with people in Mindanao, they ended up, intermarrying. They took on wives, concubines, and made children. That's why a lot of Filipinos here, they actually know their heritage that came from Africa. I've had a few Filipinos tell me, "Oh yeah, my great 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 grandfather was a black man from Sudan or something." I've had them tell me that. So it's not something we can fight against. Like, we have to practice what our ancestors did and succeeded at. We have to copy that and imprint it upon our modern environment. Once you do that, you'll achieve wealth and other forms of success.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. We're down to our last like 3 minutes. So that was very, very beautifully said. And one of the things we want people to understand is something you and I talked about behind the scene is that we're trying to bring a code of conduct. We're trying to bring ethics. We're not forcing it on anyone or whatever, but we're just trying to show those who have, a faith. In this case, we're talking about a Hebrew faith and stuff like that. But some of the Muslim brothers, the same thing. You want to see, the thing is, we keep thinking that we're an island sometimes, and that's not really the case. Like, for instance, when I go out there, I don't want to give my faith a bad name. I don't want to give my people a bad name. I don't want to give Hondo a bad name. That's my brother. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, no, no. See, I know you deal with your consuls with honor. You look after them, you protect them, you provide stuff like that. It's with
I
honor.
believe you talked with a couple of them. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I talked to him. I'm like, and I asked him like, okay, how you feel about Hondo? I mean, how does he treat you and stuff like that? How do you feel about this? How you feel? And they answer for themselves.
These are unscripted calls. We weren't expecting
Yeah,
to ask them on
yeah,
anything.
exactly,
The
totally.
way they are, they would have told you. I know how they are. They would have been like, he's he's over
Yeah,
here abusing me. They would have actually said that.
exactly. So they got to understand these are not weak, uneducated women or whatever. It's to see the difference is here's the problem that a lot of people don't understand. That you and I, we deal with them honest and upfront. They make their own decision. They make their own decision. So
Correct.
we don't wait till they fall in love or string them along for a year and a half. And no, no, no. We tell them exactly what we are. This is what it is. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do with it, that is up to you.
Yeah.
If they want to continue to pursue, okay, cool. Now here's my program. This is what I do. This is what I expect, and we go from there.
There's more power in choice than there is in slavery. I want everyone to remember that. There's more
Absolutely.
power in choice than there is in slavery. And that's why, you never threaten a woman with what might happen to her, whether it's coming from your hands or whether it's
Right.
life, karma,
Right.
or the deity, whatever deity you serve. You never
Right.
want to approach it like that. You don't have to approach women hostile like that. They don't want
Exactly.
to. They don't like you because you too short or you too tall. They like short dudes,
Right.
short teens as they call some of us. Whatever it may be. She has the powers and the choice. I can even speak one of in fact, my consort here. When I first met her, I was like, man, she's gonna be really like super serious on that. She's one of the most affectionate women I've ever even heard of. Like she's very affectionate. And she said, that's because I want to make sure you were for real. That's all.
I love it.
And that's
Beautifully
all
said,
she needs
brother.
to do.
Beautifully said, brother. Beautifully said. All right, so hey, we made it exactly at an hour. We covered a lot of ground.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, I mean, I know, you know, we're personal friends, but at the same time, you are on business. You're out there taking care of your business, and you took the time. You carved out time in your day. So I just want to say thank you, and you know, hey, bless you and everything that you're doing. And of course, you and I, we will get out there one day at the same time. Our
We
paths.
just missed each other. We literally just missed each other. Like
Exactly.
it was crazy.
Absolutely. So
But I
we're
appreciate you
gonna.
for having me on too. I really appreciate you. I'm always honored when when anybody asks me to be on the platform because as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a guy out here too. I'm doing we out here. We all want to build wealth and build our economies. Whatever we're out here doing. But like I really appreciate you inviting me on and just giving me this platform to speak about my book. Oh, also please buy my book. I'm the author of a book called The Polygamous Papers. An introduction to this culture and its principles, pitfalls, and ethics. Y'all can get that on Amazon. It's rated 4.6 out of 5 stars. And I do have another book coming called Polygamy as Economic Warfare, a dossier on family power. So please buy that book when it comes out in a few months. And that book is going to be about 400 pages when it is complete. So please buy both books. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. This is High Value Hebrew. I'm your host, Robert E. Reed, with a very special guest, Hondo Solomon. As you said, pick up his book. You can find them over on Amazon, and then you can also check them out and let them know any social media that you want that they can reach you. Where can they find you?
So on YouTube, you can just look up the polygamy. You can look up Hondo Solomon, and you'll see all my videos there. You'll see it under my name. You can look up Brother Hondo at Brother Hondo on Instagram and TikTok. I've only got a few videos on TikTok. On Instagram is a little bit more stacked. I'm going to start doing more videos. Of course, you find me on Facebook under Hondo Solomon. I'm the real Hondo Solomon. You'll see me in a blue shirt with my arms crossed like this. So y'all holler at me. I will have a line of merchandise coming soon for high culture. Y'all gonna see that. There's gonna be a lot of stuff about the polygamous papers. So I'm asking that y'all support with your money too, because I'm putting out the merch. And if you want to contribute to the cause, you just want to contribute to whatever what I'm doing, the ministry, then sure, please do, please do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and close out. Thank everybody for watching. Bless all of you and your household. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.